getting started with how to read tab, why it's upside down, and the basic markers you should know. What is tab? Tab is short for tablature. It's a form of musical notation that shows a graphical representation of the guitar fretboard. It's a really accessible way for guitarists from beginner level to start learning and reading guitar music. The 6 lines represent the strings and the numbers represent which fret number you need to play. The main thing to remember is that the thick, low E string, string number 6, is the bottom line. The other strings follow in order. So the top line is the thin, high E string, string number 1. This commonly brings about the question, why is tab upside down? The way to look at tab to get used to this is as if you're holding your guitar on your knee and you look downwards at your guitar. The string that's the closest to your face is the thick E. As you look down, the strings go from the thick E to the A, to the D, to the G, to the B, to the E, and therefore, as a picture, are the same way around as they're represented on tab. This also corresponds with how we receive music notation, standard music notation, where the lowest pitch is on the bottom line. And this gives tab and music notation a form of uniformity when they're represented together. If you expose yourself to tab regularly, your brain will adapt to this perspective very quickly. We read tab from left to right. So if we have a melody of single notes, such as Happy Birthday, we will play it one note at a time. If the tab represents 2 or more numbers stacked on top of each other vertically, that means they're played all at the same time. Something like Basket Case by Green Day. Good basic symbols to know on tab are the BPM, which will usually be on the top left. That's beats per minute. That tells us the speed in a number form. The time signature, which will be 4/4 for 4 beats per bar, 3/4 for 3 beats per bar, etc. Bar lines, which divide the length into smaller sections, so they're more digestible and easier to read. And repeat marks. These tell us that we have to repeat a section. So for example, in this one, we would play until this repeat mark, and then we would go back to where it tells us to go back to, in this case, the out-facing repeat mark, and then play that section again. The pros of tab. It's easy to visualize finger placement on the guitar fretboard. It's great for self-learning. If you're learning by yourself, it's an invaluable resource for figuring out scales, riffs, songs, etc. It's accessible for beginners. It's relatively easy to learn, which makes it a great entry point for beginners learning guitar. It's widely available. Many songs have been transcribed into tab. So if you're looking for something, the chances are you're going to find the decent quality tab version of it somewhere online. It's quick and efficient because it's so quick to read and write. If you're trying to write something down to remember it or share it with somebody else, you can write it down in a matter of moments. It's quick to learn. It's much easier than standard notation to absorb, so you can be up and running in a relatively short amount of time reading songs in tab. It's great for cataloguing, so if you want to take notes, write them down in tab, store them in files. It's great to have a library of things that you've learned. Some of the cons of tab: it's incomplete. Tab doesn't give us rhythm direction unless it comes coupled with standard notation, so you have the rhythm above it, but that then requires you to be able to read the rhythm notation. The other side of that then, if you can't do that, is that you need to be able to listen to the song or the music, the riff, whatever you're learning, and apply that by ear. So tab gives us the numbers, it gives us the strings and the frets, gives us the time signature, but then in order to put that into the correct placement of rhythm, you would have to be able to hear what was going on in the song to be able to do that properly. I have seen this mess people up, but to be honest, it's a rite of passage. If you can figure out rhythms by ear or read notation rhythms, then it's part of becoming a good guitarist or musician. Another con is that it doesn't tell us which fingers to use the majority of the time. So it might say play D string fret 4, but we don't know which finger to use on the fretting hand. So that again is another rite of passage. You figure that out over time after bumbling through it. A common statement I hear is that tab is cheating. To me, that is a misunderstanding of the function that tab has or the use that it has. If you are looking for something accessible, quick, all the things that I've just listed previously, tab is an excellent resource. It's not complete, so it does miss some factors, but it's incredibly useful. If you have a written form of music that can be learnt quickly and gets people who are beginners or don't want to read notation up and running, learning and playing guitar, then to me, that's an excellent resource. I've seen it really motivate people, and that is an absolute game changer. So thumbs up to tab. I'm a fan of coming at things from different angles. So we have tab that's accessible and quick. We have notation that's more skilled and more traditional and has a richer history and is more detailed. I also really value listening to music and learning by ear. Together, those three things are absolutely priceless. So, should you learn to read tab? If all of the things I've listed previously make sense to you and your guitar journey, then yes, you should learn to read tab. It's a great resource. If you are into classical music or jazz, then they heavily rely on standard notation. So you're going to have to go and learn to read traditional music notation. If you are en route to becoming a professional musician, you need to learn tab. You need to learn music by ear. You need to learn to communicate with other musicians. And you would most likely, depending what you were aiming for, benefit from learning to read standard notation. It will make you an all-rounder musician. In this video here, I show you how to tune with 3 different kinds of tuners and 9 essential tuning tips. I'll see you next time.